wrote Cloverfield, and he wrote The Martian, and he just did. Was it Drew Pearce or Drew Goddard? I can't remember. They just did The Bad Times at the El Royale. They wrote and directed that.
Don't remember the
I remember
the
that
deets
that's a
on those.
thing.
It's a pretty
Yeah,
good
it's
movie.
a pretty good movie. Yeah,
Drew Pearce is like an English dude or something, but he wrote Iron Man 3, and then he wrote one of the Mission Impossible ones after that.
Yeah, Bad Times at the El Royale was a kind of a sleeper there. It was pretty cool.
I do like Drew Goddard, though. He's kind of went out to like directing more, but he's written stuff. That would be cool.
Well, I mean, it sounds like you have the real good basis for it. Is just working out the details.
Yeah, I wouldn't have like a cinematographer or any of that stuff worked out.
No, I'm talking about the story too. You kind of have almost everything kind of the way you would like to see it.
Yeah, the way I want to see it is I want it to be like a little over 2-hour movie. You know what I mean? That ends on a cliffhanger that no one knows is going to happen to.
So you're not investing 3.5 hours into something that you're like, no.
But then the other good news is like you would release the next movie would be done. And it would be, I would like it to be like a 6-month thing instead of a year thing. Like, you put one out in November and then you put the other one out in May.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. So it's the next year, but still. You've had enough time, but not too much time.
And now it's on digital and DVD and stuff, and you can watch it over and over again. And you can be like, oh, this whole time you would leave clues throughout. Like, they go to the Bermuda Triangle because it's Earth 3. You understand? And, like, it's in there, like, things like that. Like, I don't know. And like Grid would be more apparent. Like you would show how he maybe came over somehow first through the door somehow, and got into he never got to Cyborg until the end where he like ripped, and then I would want him to rip him out of the thing because it's really it's kind of graphic.
I just had an idea too. It's like the door is always open, but it's always open such a small amount, and they send him through first.
You're right, like the keyhole.
Yeah, and that's where, like you said, in the second movie, they show what's happening behind the other door.
Yeah.
And that's how he gets in there because they know it's there. They see it first before everybody else does.
And he's like, okay, let us know when the key's on the other side and it's unlocked or whatever.
Yeah, they have like a key, like the Owlman creates some sort of a device
to
where
open
communicate, back and forth and kind of.
And on their side, they're in like a dark lab, and like either my idea was either that the U.S. The world finally stood up to the crime syndicate is just coming after them. Like, no, we're gonna get everyone together, all the good guys, which is like Luther and like the good version of the Joker and things like
Jester.
that. Jester, yeah. And they're all over there. You can have little cameos and things like that in the background. They're all like basically rushing to their door on the moon base or something. Right. Or you could have it to where like the whole world outside is destroyed. Outside of like
there's nothing left for them to make money off of.
Yeah, and like you don't really answer it. You're like, did they destroy that? Did someone come in there to destroy that? They don't answer that. It's just like
they're all there waiting because they've been planning this for such a long time because they found that little bitty sliver, the door opened first for years and years before. They planted that guy way before that, and they're just waiting for everything to happen. So they know the history of the entire regular Earth,
right? And
they know how they can strike, and they've been planning it.
Maybe
such a good way.
Like it starts on the same island that it ends at, and like Task Force X is there, and that's where they retrieve Grid and bring it back to like their headquarters of whatever, like Belle Reve or wherever they're stationed now, like in a secret underground base somewhere. Would be cool because you want to have
Cheyenne Mountain.
I would want to have cool sets like the guy who did like what's his name, man? I forget his name. Guy Hendricks Diaz or something. I think he still does some of the movies, but he's a really good production designer. There's a bunch of good production designers out there. I'd want like a lot of cool sets, and since you got to make the most of it, you maybe want to use the sets more than once, type of deal. So like I don't know. It could be really cool and fun, and like I said, I want it to have a brighter color palette, like something like Guardians of the Galaxy type of deal.
Sure.
Like, but I still want to have Batman in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I think it'd be cool to have Batman in a blue and gray outfit with like the yellow logo, or like all black, like Howard Porter would draw him in the early JLA issues from the '97. But yeah, that's my idea.
I like it.
DC.
It's a pretty good idea.
Justice League 2-part. Maybe you could call it Justice League Crisis or something. Or Justice League.
They use Crisis with everything, so
I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
But you could use that because
Crisis
it is so
on
used.
2 Earths.
Yeah,
you could call it like Justice League Task Force X or Justice League V Task Force X because they already did like the Batman.
They already
Superman.
did the verses. Yeah.
I don't know. I couldn't think of a really good title. I'm not really good with titles, but
you'd almost have to have it done before you came out with the title.
Well, I was going to say the title that's something that shakes out over time. I think like you said, as you're making it, like when I'm writing, my hardest thing to always come up with is like character names, like your normal character names.
Yeah,
I'm like, Jim. I don't know.
Yeah.
I like coming up with names.
Yeah,
I do too. But I notice that they evolve over the turn as I'm writing. I'm like, oh, I'll like go back and take all Sinclair. Those names out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's just names that you just kind of almost pick out of a hat.
Bernard Flanagan.
Bernard. No, that's a great idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is an awesome
idea. I just want to see a cool ass Justice League movie that's inspired by some of the more cooler comics where they're like a team and I want them to already be like an established league that's operating on their own. I don't want to get into territory that Marvel's done where it's like, oh, the government needs to sanction them. Maybe like Snapper Carr's there and the cameo, and he's like the government liaison. And it's like, I got to tell the UN something, and it's like, well, tell them Superman said everything's fine. Who cares? Superman's on our team. Like, you know what I mean? I want to get past some of that other stuff and just get into some more comic-y.
Well, and I think if you started out, like you said, where they're capturing somebody, they're defeating a minor villain of some sort.
And they're already known.
And they're already doing their thing. They're already known.
Yeah, you don't have to introduce the whole world.
Like Flash is
Justice League.
Flash is cleaning up stuff in the background, you know what I mean? Right. And Superman's like signing an autograph and like talking to the mayor.
Yeah.
And like Batman's just crouched somewhere and like gets
Well,
up.
he's actually just in his bat wing or something.
Yeah, he's like
yeah, he's already gone. Well, that's awesome. That's awesome.
So should we throw it over to you, Brock?
I guess it's my turn. Okay. So, I mean, my original idea, which I had been working on for a long time, would be literally the Big Trouble in Little China prequel.
Right.
Which I have a whole deal for that one. I want to save that one for something else.
There's already a prequel to
It's a very good idea.
To me, that's a low-hanging fruit. So I wanted to challenge myself on this one. And
I got a low-hanging fruit for you.
Me being
is it a banana?
Such a Sylvester Stallone,
it's a kumquat.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, like 19.
Sorry. Brock's going 80s action type style.
I like that. I mean, I grew up with that. I grew up with seeing that, and you get these one-off badasses that were in the 80s, that always had cool one-liners like "stick around" and shit like that,
Arnold.
And I really I loved all that shit. And one of the movies that I've always really loved was Cobra.
Yes,
I mean, always loved it. And it was just such a really cool one-off, fucking in your face, Golan Globulus, Cosmatos movie, I mean, it's just so fucking manly,
Absolutely.
Are those the producers or something, like the German producers?
Yeah. Golan Globulus for Canon Films,
Get some more oil on him, more baby oil.
I mean, even in that movie, they have the montage where she's like, they're having that ultra 80s song while she's posing for photos and shit like that before she almost gets killed, right? So, I mean, I grew up with that, and those were Friday nights for me. Besides horror, was watching those 80s action movies,
Sure.
So I loved them. So my idea, honestly, if I had unlimited money, I would make a Zombie Squad movie. I wouldn't call it Zombie Squad because that's so simple, and it would have to be Zombie Squad almost, and just because of what it is. But I want to see, because they allude to it in that movie,
Z Squad.
Well, no,
Z Squad.
Z Squad. It sounds too German. But they allude to it, and they say at one point in that movie, "Oh, he's part of the Zombie Squad." It's all the stuff that nobody wants to do. You know, cool. I mean, I had this idea. It was like, who the fuck is a Zombie Squad?
So, real quick before we get into your movie, and I know most of our listeners are probably going to know this movie, but why don't you give them just a real quick synopsis of the movie you're talking about?
Cobra?
Cobra.
Yes.
Okay, well, Cobra's basically Marion Cobretti. He's a badass. Played by Sylvester Stallone. He has the coolest fucking car in the world. Literally, he is fighting... He's the guy they call in when everything is like gone to shit and they need somebody. So in the very first scene in that movie, he's basically goes into a grocery store to stop a guy from killing a whole bunch of people. And you know what? This movie really does resonate very hugely now, in a way that there's people that are doing that now. Right. You know, it's kind of almost like a New World Order type of a deal, which in the 80s there was always groups like that in the fucking movies. You know, these like Cobra from fucking G.I. Joe. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So it's kind of almost the same thing. These disaffected, suits. They want to take over the world and start killing
Used
people.
Car salesman.
Yeah. So basically, it's like him.
Oh, that's the director, George P. Cosmatos.
Yeah. He literally goes in and he'll do anything it takes to win. You know, he's like, one of his lines was something like, "Why don't you tell that to his family? This guy has rights." And he's like, "No, fuck you."
Did you know this is written by Sylvester Stallone?
Yeah.
The screenplay is by Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah, Sylvester Stallone, he was a pretty good writer.
He got nominated for Rocky, but keep going. Sorry, keep going.
So basically, it's just, this guy that's disaffected with the system, but yet he makes his own rules.
Plays by his own
and
rules.
Basically gets the job done.
Yep.
It's every 80s movie. He's everybody wrapped into one. It's almost, it's Commando 2.
Right.
Or Commando 1,
But this guy's an axe murderer he's going after?
Well, he's going after a series of murders, but all these people, there's a group of people that are doing all the murders.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so...
not to get too deep in the movie, I just wanted to have people to have a background.
So basically, Marion Cobretti, he's named after John Wayne, of course, They call him Cobra. He does everything, he's he's a literal badass. It's bulletproof. And I got that idea.
John Spartan.
Pretty much, yeah. But yeah, before he got froze.
Right.
And
Demolition Man.
Yeah, so I literally, I had this idea of who the Zombie Squad was and how they got together, what they did, who they were before, how they became the Zombie Squad, everything like that.
And
now,
this is just mentioned in passing in the
pretty
movie?
much.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just one line in the whole deal. It's just like he's part of the Zombie Squad, he's pretty quiet. So he's got these cool one-liners and everything. So you don't see any of the other Zombie Squad. You don't even know if it's still going, but they kind of allude that it is. So basically he's part of this. I guess he would be part of a unit that does everything, right?
Right.
Well, my story centers around that unit, I say
Absolutely.
unit.
He likes the unit.
Yeah,
the
so
big unit.
So it literally centers around how that Zombie Squad got started in L.A. Because I want to frame it in L.A. in the 70s, because my characters are all Vietnam veterans.
Okay.
So a lot of the Vietnam veterans, and the research, and I haven't done a lot of research, a lot of Vietnam, or just a lot of, American servicemen come back and they become police officers or something, you know what I mean? So these guys, I really kind of framed it as they're all highly decorated. In a way, they all had big battles, and I even have their character bios built around certain battles where they're from in the country.
Wow.
Like how old they were, and pretty much just like what caused them to want to take on these jobs. Because back in that time too, there wasn't a lot of, because seeing the serial killer shows and everything like that, there wasn't a lot of, say, interstate or interdepartment
cooperation.
Correct. People didn't know what was going on in the other part of the world.
There wasn't no internet.
Yeah,
right,
correct.
Right.
The connection wasn't there. And in law enforcement, that's a major thing.
Well, famously with the Zodiac killer case.
Correct. Zodiac killer, Ted
and
Bundy.
Beverly Hills Cop.
Yes. Yeah, all kinds of stuff like that. Yeah. Right. So in the late 70s, and just like we were talking about with like Manhunter and things like that, there had to be a way to get together with that part of it. Well, this not necessarily is for the national part of it, but it's that inner, like the sheriff's department, LA Sheriff's Department, LA Police Department, and all of these guys end up somehow being in LA. They all go back home after they get back from the war. Either they get married or something, but something sends them to LA.
Okay.
And they all get in LA. The main person I have for it, he is, let me look here. Of course, Marion Cobretti is not, I don't want to introduce him in this first part of the movie.
Okay.
Or even in the movie in general. Maybe he comes around at the very end is what I'm thinking.
Like a cameo?
Well, not even that. It's like the Zombie Squad is formed, and he's the last one to kind of come in. And he's the most major badass out of all of them anyway, so he's not part of it. The main character I had was, his name And again, I have a hard time with names. It would be like Everett Malone, right? And he's a sergeant.
Everett Malone.
Right? So I try to think of something, and I looked at names of people that were born in the 40s, and I was like, okay, what's a good name for these guys right there?
Sergeant Malone.
See, and then I try to think of contemporary actors.